New season starts today. Preseason basketball, baby. And if you have been waiting 150 days for Phoenix Suns basketball, guess what? They know that. And they gave you a little bonus basketball tonight or today or this morning, whatever time it is where you're watching it. Little overtime game to start preseason game number one. Phoenix Suns ultimately win the game by a final score of 130 to 126. So, as I bring in Matthew, as I always do, welcome to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Matthew, how great is it to watch basketball again?
It's good. I haven't been this excited for preseason basketball in a long time.
I know,
Like
right?
I think this is the first time ever I've been excited. I think it's just because the new jerseys, all the new names, and Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker just wanted to give it to the Pistons today, along with Beal. So it just there's a lot of good things happening right now in Phoenix, and of course, like the new intro, the new. It's actually not new. Taken from UPN 45, they actually have the
Yes.
new one. So that was pretty cool. So it was just a great day of Suns basketball, I think, right?
It was. It was just, again, an opportunity to kind of finally see the vision that James Jones and Matt Ishbia and Josh Bartlestein all had this past offseason and put it on the court and to see what it looks like. And, newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, it looked good. Okay. I know that this team was up by like 26 points at one point. Ultimately, it went to overtime. It doesn't matter. It's the fucking preseason. Okay.
I'm surprised it went to overtime.
I know. I was thinking that, like the last play of the game, that the Pistons like, dude, just make a layup, man. Like we don't want to play another 5 minutes, but they didn't. The Detroit Pistons came storming back, outscoring the Phoenix Suns 38-18 in the fourth quarter of a game that doesn't matter against our third team guys, where they had like Marvin Bagley was out there and Azur Thompson, who's their first overall pick. So anybody who gets their panties all in a bunch about the fact that this game went to overtime after the Suns being up by so much, it really doesn't matter. This is more about just kind of seeing the team, seeing the roster, how they mesh together defensively, offensively, input some or the impart of some offensive sets and defensive sets, and it's a learning curve. And I think that there was plenty for those second and third team units to learn in this game, but nothing that you have to sit there and be like, well, there goes the season. Guess it's over.
No, all you wanted was maybe the first quarter, the 42 points, missing 2 shots. Like that's all you want to take away from this game. Everything else is just kind of fun to see. And we'll get in. There's so many drops, dude. When I was watching this game, like, dude, John, your fingers would be tired from all these drops because all the new players. You know what I mean? We have to go through almost all of them, right?
Yeah, and I still don't have drops for all of them because
okay.
Not every single.
You didn't do save and lead, did you?
I haven't done save and lead. I haven't done Chimezie Metu. There's some who I just want to feel out a little bit, get to know them, even though Saban you think I would know after a year. Like third string Saban or something, but I don't have I don't have anything lined up for him. So just a reminder, if you're watching along live, thanks for hanging out on a Sunday with us. If you're listening later time, thanks for hanging out with us at all. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, give us one of those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you do, obviously we appreciate it. It helps with all the algorithms and whatnot, and lets people know where to consume the best post-game content on Planet Orange. And again, if you write us one of those reviews, we'll read it right here on the podcast. So looking forward to talking about some Suns basketball and not speculation, actually talking about some things that we saw on the court. So without further ado, if you got them, Suns fans, make sure you pop them right along with us. Ooh, man, that sounds crisp. And let's talk about this Suns victory, huh? It is a 130-126 victory for the Phoenix Suns in their first preseason game, a game that took place local time at noon Arizona time in Detroit. Obviously, a place in which Matt Ishbia is from. Josh Bartlestein, the CEO of the Suns, has spent the past few years working there. Devin Booker's from there. He actually was seen beforehand hanging out and going to a Lions game, so definitely an interesting graphic because both teams somehow won. They're both
that?
They're both 1-0.
It's preseason for all of us, dude. Let me edit that.
All right, you go ahead and edit that. I'm gonna ask you a question.
Oi, Matty, mate, I've got to ask.
Mate, I got to ask you a quick question here. Obviously, one of the storylines entering this game is the fact that the Phoenix Suns are going against their old head coach, Monty Williams. So seeing Monty on the other side of the floor, seeing him wearing that pink polo, now that we have just a little bit of distance, we don't have much distance. What are your thoughts on the Monty Williams era in Phoenix?
Oh, now that it's over, it's kind of sad, honestly. But I think the best part of it is that Booker, the guy that's going to be with us for forever, really learned a lot. I think he came at the right time during Booker's career to help him better himself on the court and off the court. I think that was huge. That was the biggest takeaway. I think this team had to mature, right? I think the one guy that obviously didn't was Ayton, but the whole team has just turned over now. It's all new faces. So when Monty's there as the Detroit Pistons coach, sitting there watching the Suns, maybe he doesn't feel too bad because it's like all the guys he helped grow on and off the court are kind of gone except for Booker, right? So it's not as sad as it would be if McHale, Cameron Johnson were there, NDA was still there on the team, and then Monty's over on the other side, because his team probably would have continued with Monty as a coach if those guys stuck together, I feel like.
Yeah, when you see him across the court and, you obviously appreciate who and what he was for this organization, the fact that we have an NBA Finals appearance with him as the head coach, the fact that he has flipped the culture and was a part of that flipping of the culture. Obviously, Devin Booker, ultimately the member of the Phoenix Suns who was at the core of this change that has occurred in Phoenix. But when you see him on the other side of the court, you kind of feel like the same way that he feels about all the different Suns transactions. I know that Dwayne Rankin of the Arizona Republic asked him before the game, what does he think when he looks and he sees that the Suns have Bradley Beal now and DeAndre Ayton's gone? And he should ask him how he feels that Landry Shamet was ultimately traded as a part of that Bradley Beal trade. But Monty Williams said, I don't care. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Like, Monty, thank you for what you did for the Suns. I don't care that you're not with us anymore, man. We're so focused on this team, the future of this organization, what this team has and how they're going to look, that it just so happens that we played our first game against Monty Williams. And when we finally do play them in the regular season, maybe a few casuals will come along and be like, oh yeah, Monty Williams, I remember him saying, but ultimately it doesn't matter, nor should we really care. Can we root for the Pistons from afar? I think so. I don't know if it's a team I'll really root for. There's not a lot
worst team in the league.
Yeah.
So
there's not a lot of pieces on this team or players on this team that I'm a huge fan of. When you see the fact that they've got old man Marvin Bagley out there and he's playing, he played 22 minutes and, had 25 points for him tonight on 10 of 14 shooting. I'm not a big Bagley fan. Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes. I'm so glad we didn't draft him. So it's a team that I'm not necessarily going to root for from afar.
No, and Monty has his hands full with that team. I mean, going from a veteran-led team to just a bunch of young guys having to figure out how they can buy into defense. That's the thing over there now, is they have to buy into defense. You kind of forget when Monty was here, the 0.5 offense. Mm-hmm. I kind of forgot about that because on our finals run, I feel like we were just so much better defensively, right? We kind of focused more on defense, and when he left, it seemed like we were a better defensive team. Obviously, we went up in rankings every season from third. And then the last season was 7th. But 2 seasons ago, we were third in best defense. But you just forget how good he is on that side too. But before Monty came to Phoenix, there was always a question if he was actually a good coach, a good head coach, right? Mm-hmm. And then when he's here with Chris Paul, who was actually the leader? Was it him or Chris Paul? Now that he has to kind of restart with a bunch of young dudes, that's a big task. So I hope he can hang in there and these guys kind of buy in and play good defense. It seems like, they're a pesky, fun team, but they will buy into Monty because it seems like they respect him right now.
Of course, he brings an elder statesman point of view, and it is a young, pesky team, as we saw tonight. A team that will never quit, and I think it's something that obviously EJ says on the broadcast. He's like, you got to watch out for these teams that have these young, fiery guys who are competitive all the time because they're just going to keep coming at you, which is ultimately what they did tonight. you talk about the 0.5 of offense, and that's one of the first things that I noticed in this game was how different this team offensively felt than the 0.5 offense, quote unquote, that we had from a year ago. We talk about Monty's system was the 0.5, but we never truly ran a 0.5. Right? Like that was the philosophy, but how often did we actually see it executed, right? It was primarily just like Chris Paul. It was like 4 possessions that one game. Like we had, oh, look at the ball whip around, but it was primarily like Chris Paul rolling the ball up the court, taking his time, bleeding the clock, hype screen and roll. That didn't work. Oh shit, late shot. But we have a new number 3 on this team, and he came out and had a little bit more spunk and athleticism, obviously, than Chris Paul as well. He should. And it definitely created a difference in the way that this team offensively performed.
She said, "You're not the only one, but you're the best, Bradley Bol Bol."
Bradley Beal makes his debut with the Phoenix Suns, albeit in a preseason game. 14 minutes played. He was 3 of 5 from the field, including 4 of 4 from the free throw line. 11 total points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, only the 1 turnover for Bradley Beal. But it is one of the things that I definitely noticed was the fact that, after the CP3 era, the BB3 era is much faster, Matthew.
Yeah, it is. And the decision making's quick too. It's nice that Bradley Beal is basically like just another Devin Booker kind of out there. It's kind of good to have him play off ball, but also if Booker's on the bench, KD's on the bench, you have another guy that can just go get you a bucket, right? Get to the lane, try to set somebody up. But he's quick decision making. That's what you want from him. He seemed comfortable already. He seemed kind of more comfortable than what Booker looked like out there in the first quarter. But moving the ball around, kind of getting to his spots, and just the chemistry already almost kind of seemed there with him. It's kind of weird still. Obviously, it's the first game, but it's weird to see him in a Suns uniform next to Booker, and you're like, well, how's that going to work? It didn't seem like an issue, man. They were doing the pick and roll with each other, basically. The other guy gets open. Hey, here's the ball, right? That's how I see it as a fan. I'm like, okay, one of them's going to be open after this pick. They need to worry about KD. So the defense has to worry about too much. And then you forget that Bill can actually drive with the ball, get to the rim, draw contact if he wants to. Didn't get some calls, but he seems like he's very confident in his game and getting to the rim. And you kind of forget about that. But I love the first quarter with this team, dude. They looked like they were gelling. Obviously, missed 2 shots, 42 points right off the bat.
3
Just
shots.
3 shots? Okay. They did start 17 of 19. So
they ended, as Matthew is referencing, for those of you who didn't see this game, if you're a Phoenix Suns fan, you've been sitting here scratching and clawing and just waiting for this team to come out and play on the court and to see what it would look like. That first quarter was ridiculous. The Suns went 17 of 20 from the field, which is 85% shooting. They were 4 of 5 from beyond the arc. They were 8 of 10 from the free throw line. They had 46 points in the first quarter alone, 11 assists on those 17 field goals. So that first team unit came out, and to Matthew's point with Bradley Beal, the wrinkles, this wasn't, it's your turn, it's my turn, it's your turn, it's your turn, and now it's my turn. This was a very fluid offense. They got the ball out in transition when they could, but when they were in their half-court sets, they were definitely utilizing the different wrinkles and taking advantage of what the defense was trying to give them because of the gravity that KD, Booker, and Beal bring. You add to the fact that Yusuf Nurkic was providing some quality screens and had some playmaking of his own, passing out of the block and passing outside the perimeter. And this team was just, they were flawless. It was 46-29. They almost put up 50 points in their first quarter together. And in that first quarter, KD played 8 minutes. Booker played 9 minutes. Bradley played 8 minutes. So this team just looked flawless, and then you see the second team unit come in, and it's a 6 second team unit as well. So the newness that Bradley Beal brought to this game was personified and executed by all players involved in that first quarter, man.
Yeah, and it wasn't like your turn, my turn, but it was kind of more ISO, especially for Booker. But when they got to it, when it was ISO, it was like they went straight to it. It wasn't like pull the ball back out, kind of like James Harden-ish. It's just like, okay, I'm already in my spot. Let's go one-on-one. And I swear, like, Booker got some guys on skates, and then Beal would do the same thing too. So if they are going to do that more ISO, that's fine because they're just so quick at going to it. It just looked, it looked like they were just so familiar with each other and just knowing like, okay, let's back up. Let's let these guys go to work, and it's quick.
Yeah, it's interesting how they can have the ability to be a chameleon on offense in so many different ways because of isolation ball, because of, screen and roll, passing around, pin downs, back screens, and then obviously defense equating to offense. And the news came out yesterday. Flex, stated it, but we didn't know until we actually saw it on the court that the fifth starter, at least for this preseason game, Josh Okogie.
Hey, Joe. Where you going with that gun of yours?
Okogie looked nice out there as that fifth starter. Obviously, somebody who has the defensive capability, plays a lot bigger than he is. He had 4 points in that first quarter and was 2-2 from the field. Ended the night with the total of just the 4 points. But again, somebody who his defense created offense, created transition opportunities. And when you have Josh Okogie out there, that's what Frank Vogel stated that he liked about Okogie. And, you look at him, you look at Bates-Diop, who we'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast, but the decision to go with Okogie, knowing that he was part of that starting unit that the Phoenix Suns went 8-0 during the regular season with Kevin Durant, with Devin Booker. He fits seamlessly in. He plays his role fantastically. And you don't really notice the fact that KD has to kind of take on a larger guy on defense because Okogie is switching and taking on those much more physical matchups, which ultimately is going to benefit Kevin Durant because he's not going to have to play as physical on the defensive end and avoid some wear and tear.
Yeah, he fills in the role so nice wherever he's playing. I mean, he's even playing full court defense right away on Cade. Cade is a big dude, and he makes it difficult on anybody defensively. And that's what you want. I don't know if they're going to keep going back and forth, but right now Okogie does make sense because of chemistry. Mm-hmm. He's the one guy that everyone's talking about in these interviews. The training camp when it first started, the first 2 days, you just keep hearing Okogie's name. And that's the biggest thing. And they kept talking about chemistry. We're working it out. It's going to take some time, but you can already see his fit right now. You do forget about the size and just the limitations that he might have defensively. But even like on the offensive end, it'll get there, and hopefully he works on the shot. But right now, man, he fits so well with his starting five. It just, we'll get to KBD later, but it's just, it's one of those things where it's like you can tell why they chose him. And It's not a surprise to me, obviously. But if KD can kind of hold up and the Nurkic do a better job defensively, this is going to be a fine fit for him.
Well, and it's a Frank Vogel thing, right? Like Frank Vogel's a defensive guy. And if you're hearing all these reports coming out of training camp of how aggressive Okogie's being, how seamless he's playing, and to your point, which is the best point of all, he brings that chemistry. He has played with Booker before and Kevin Durant, albeit in a smaller window and snippet of time than he did with Booker, but he does fit and understands what his role is. And I love the fact that, he came back. I said it in the offseason outside, when free agency first happened, those first couple days, right? Like that's when we got Drew Eubanks, I think, was the first guy that was like committed. And then it was like Metu. And, you kind of went down the line, Bates-Diop. I think it was day 2 is when we got Josh Okogie back. And I told you then, like, this is the best free agent signing by the Phoenix Suns. Now, ultimately, I think that was trumped by Eric Gordon. But the fact that he came back and is going to bring that hustle, that dog, a little bit of, our first team unit fuck shit up guy, you need that to be successful with this team. And it brings physicality. And obviously another guy who brings physicality is the fact that now we have Jusuf Nurkic.
Nurkalicious definition make them boys go crazy.
Nurkalicious in this one. 15 minutes played. He had 5 points. He had 5 rebounds. He had 3 assists, 2 of 4 from the field. Definitely looked I have a lot of pros and cons when it comes to Nurk in this game. Tell me what you saw, Matthew. That fucking plane just flew by.
Yeah, there's a couple planes going by,
Jesus.
So Nurkic, he's the one guy I'm really focusing on, obviously, because of Ayton's departure. And then now it's kind of like, dude, the amount of like notes I take on Nurkic is like matching what Ayton brought. I think it's kind of just maybe
he did get the note. Like, he did get my most notes.
Yeah, like right away he didn't even play that much either. He got in foul trouble with three fouls in 7 minutes. Was not good, but the first stint with him in the offense looked good until the first time out. But he looked like he's like ready to go offensively. He was going off the picks really fast. Like he was hitting those picks and rolling as fast as he could, right, to really get to his spot. But also, I think offensively he mixed really, really well with those guys. Defensively on the boards, he was there. But then after the timeout, it just kind of seemed like he was kind of too slow. Like the Pistons, their offense in the paint, they were kind of just running circles around him, passing the ball around him, too quick to handle. So he kind of looked slow in those areas. But the best part about this is I think that he just kind of synced with them well offensively. But that's going to be the thing, is like, it's going to be frustrating for us to see him out there and be in foul trouble, too slow to roll, to really pick up the other guy coming on the weak side. That's going to be something to watch. That's the one thing that did frustrate me. I wasn't too excited about the final results for a preseason game and the limited minutes he did play. There's a lot of work for him to do, I feel like, to kind of earn our trust in a way, but I'm not expecting too much more. Just the foul trouble, and if he can help defensively, that's the one thing. But this team, of course, in the Pistons, they are younger, they're fast, more athletic too, so that might be hard for him to handle in the paint. But I mean, what are your thoughts on him after the first game?
Well, you hit the first thing right on the nail. No matter what happens, and get used to this, Suns fans and Jamsters out there who are watching and listening, we will be comparing to Nurkic to Ayton all season long, because Ayton is what we know. The past half a decade, past 5 seasons, DeAndre Ayton has been the center for the Phoenix Suns. And to his credit, outside of, like a 25-game suspension for a diuretic and some mild injuries here and there, he's played a ton of minutes at that position. I think in its totality, I like the trade because of the Grayson Allen part, which we'll get to here in a bit. But Nurkic and Ayton, we're going to be comparing them all season long. And just watching this game, there's things that I saw that I was just like, hey, that's better than DA. And there's plenty that I saw, I'm like, hey, DA would have played that one better.
Yep.
The things that I saw that were better than DA in this game, his ability to pass and set up players. It's one thing that Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, multiple players on the Phoenix Suns have been talking about in training camp thus far, is how Yusuf Nurkic has a very high basketball IQ. He sees plays develops. He helps develop those plays. You saw that a couple times in this game where he is literally he has the ball 30 feet from the basket, and he's just letting a back screen come to fruition before he passes it in, and it's an easy 2 points. And I think it was to Grayson Allen on a play when he did that. But that's something that DA could never do. Remember when DA would get the ball outside the 3-point line? He just, oh shit. He get all nervous holding it and not know.
Yeah.
He's so anxious to hot potato that bitch and not have it, which is okay. That's who he was. Whereas Nurkic was very much more calm, cool, collected, in control. And that's going to be something that's going to be very beneficial to this team, because, again, when we talk about, quote unquote fit, because that's the word when it comes to Nurk, he is a better fit for what this offense is. It looked like a good fit, 46 points in that first quarter. But that's one thing that he definitely does better. The basketball IQ, that too is better. Foul happy, obviously that's going to be something that we're going to be in tune. Due to his physical limitations, because he's bigger and slower, he has to make up with it with some physicality. And in that effort to try to be physical, he will get called for fouls. Now, the third foul was kind of bullshit, right? Was that the screen foul?
Yeah, and I think we're going to have that, sometimes with him, because like he said, he is physical and he wants to make an imprint down there, which is nice. It's like if he's going to foul hard, right? That's what we always wanted Ayton to do. Never happened. So that's nice to have there. And then you got Eubanks coming in behind him. So those two guys, I know we're talking about Nurkic, and comparing him to Ayton, but I'm really looking forward to long-term, if they both stay healthy, Nurkic and Eubanks, to how they can actually manage that center position. Because so far in game one, it looked pretty decent. But
that's the nice thing, is because of who Eubanks is coming in behind him, I feel like Nurkic can be a little bit more aggressive because he has a quality center playing behind him. Another thing, I wasn't overly impressed with his physicality on the boards. This is somebody who we've just mentioned, plays physical player. Is big. He's 280. DA was 220. So, but just kind of not. Because of his lumberiness, I don't know if that's a word, but I'm using it right now. His lumberiness, he doesn't have the athleticism to go grab some of those boards. And there were some opportunities, I feel, that he missed out on some rebounds. So again, as the preseason, obviously the regular season progresses, something we're going to be cued in on. What is his role, quote unquote fit, right? He's somebody who's supposed to be able to play some defense, grabs some rebounds and has a little playmaking ability on the offensive end. And although we saw some of the playmaking ability on the offensive end, the defense wasn't great and the rebounding wasn't great in this game. So a lot of Jamsters are saying, we should do a new drop Nurkic watch instead of Nurkalicious. It might end up, as time progresses, it might end up being,
what? Yeah, because it's
Nurkic
the most
watch.
important position right now on this team. It's just the center because we're set everywhere else. So it's a one vocal point for sure.
100%. It's a vocal and focal point for them.
Focal.
Which player do you want to talk about next, Matthew?
Can we talk about Grayson Allen?
Oh, Grayson Allen, our fuck shit up guy.
Happy birthday to Grayson Allen.
He's a Libra, huh?
He's a Libra. That's right. 10-8 is his you lying ass Libras. But ultimately, one of the highlights of this game, 20 minutes played. He was 7 of 11 from the field, including 3 of 6 from beyond the arc. He had 18 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. He had a block. He was a team best plus 22 in his 20 minutes played. And this is the kind of game, this is a reminder who he could be for this team. And as much as we've hated him from afar, he does a lot of those little things right. And that's what's allowed his career to progress as an NBA player. He's somebody who can create off the dribble. He has a physicality to him, so he doesn't get pushed off his spots. His first basket as a Sun, when he went left and he gets bumped and he throws it in and it goes in, obviously no call, but I thought he looked really good in this game, Matthew.
Yeah, he looked kind of like Dwayne Wade, right? We talked about how he he modeled his game after Dwayne Wade. He kind of looked like that, man. He was a lot quicker, a lot bigger than I thought. He made sense on the court, just being the backup point guard at times, ball handling. That was one thing we always worried about. It's just like, who's going to handle the ball, even off the bench. And we're like, Saban Lee, good win. We're all fighting, and Saban Lee sucks tonight or today. But him and Eric Gordon, man, like they look good together. Those two, just the chemistry is already there with them. And that's one thing we're always going to talk about. Obviously, it's a basketball team. You want the chemistry to be good.
Yes.
But he just made winning plays. That was the one thing everyone talked about, like the last few years, like getting played out of the playoffs, not able to hold his minutes down in the playoffs. But tonight, preseason, but still, this guy just looked, he was the best player on the court when he was on there, making plays you didn't even think you can imagine that he would actually, just perform like that. So I think for myself, he was the best player out there, but I'm more excited about the fact that you can trust him with the ball. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I didn't expect that either. So first game against the Pistons, but still I'm just like, I'm like, okay, like I'm buying in. Everyone's buying in right now.
So obviously when the season begins, the plan of attack isn't to have Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant kicking it on the sidelines in street gear by the second half, right? The game plan is to have one, if not two of those guys always on the court at all times, and all 3 of them to start and finish the games. But that being said, if you roll out a lineup that includes Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon and Yuta Watanabe and Drew Eubanks, this is it's a squad that can do a lot of things. They can handle the ball. They can play a little defense. They can definitely shoot. And that's one thing that the addition of Grayson Allen really helps. Again, we call him our fuck shit up guy because that's what he does. He goes out there and he kind of fucks some shit up in all aspects. He doesn't do any one thing elite, although his shooting is pretty damn good. And that's what happens when you get one of those dookies is they can shoot. But he also, as you mentioned, he made winning plays. I think it's a great way to describe how Grayson Allen performed tonight. A guy who didn't meet my expectations. And it's okay, guys. Remember, this is the first game of preseason. You got a long way to go. But one guy who definitely fell short of preseason expectations is a guy who I was saying should be the 5th starter.
You're down with KBD.
Yeah, you know me.
You're down with KBD.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with KBD?
Every last lady.
Yeah, Bates-Diop looked lost out there tonight. Ultimately, he ended playing 18 minutes. He was only 1 of 5 from beyond the arc. That one was a 3-pointer. Had 5 rebounds, had a couple fouls. I felt like he was forcing the issue a little too much. He didn't play within himself. He wasn't passing out of situations in which he probably should have. He's driving to the rim, and instead of hitting somebody cutting, he's like, I'm taking this up. And then ultimately it didn't go in. It was a bad shot attempt. He didn't make winning plays, Matthew.
No, he didn't. But it was weird to me. I'm not too familiar with this game. I haven't watched a whole lot, but a lot of it seemed like he was starting at the perimeter every time he had the ball. You know what I mean? So we talked about him being the power forward, basically, letting Kevin Durant play the three, but I didn't see any kind of physicality. He kind of seemed smaller out there on the court. So I don't know where that's going to come in. I think defensively, I want to see more of that. If he can play with the starters, maybe the next game he can come in, just even though we know Okogie's great as the fifth starter, just play KBD and just see how it looks, man. And just see if he can fill in that void at defense on the defensive side next to KD and help Nurkic. And if Nurkic needs help, on the weak side defense, he can maybe be that guy. But right now he was just starting at the perimeter and he's just like jacking up shots. It kind of reminded me of like Josh Jackson a little bit, maybe. You know what I mean? Just kind of like what's going on. Yeah, without the defense. It looked a little frustrating at times. But like you said, it's game one. You can't everything, right? I mean, KBD and Nurkic right now are kind of questionable to how they fit right now at times, but that's fine. I mean, I think he just needs some time with his team more.
Yeah, and he's, again, somebody who is looking to obviously increase his effectiveness, seizing the opportunity, coming to Phoenix on one of those 2-year deals with a second year being a player option, knowing that he's going to have an opportunity to play with some of the best players in the league. And he's somebody who's trying to maximize that effectiveness. And it felt like he knows that he was just forcing a little bit too much. So he definitely somebody we're going to continue to watch throughout the preseason and the season to see how much he can grow into his role, because it's sitting right there for him. It's right there. And if he can go and seize it, he can really do great things for the Suns team and obviously do great things for himself. I'll tell you one guy who also looked lost as fuck, and this is my personal opinion, and I want to hear your personal opinion.
Look, up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's
Bol Bol, motherfucker.
I will be changing that drop because I got like audio all set up for another one because I like to call him Sprinkles. Sprinkles out there, not looking good, man, at least in my opinion. Not only 9 minutes played, but he was a negative 15 in those 9 minutes. He had 4 points on 2 of 5 shooting. He had 4 rebounds. He had 1 assist. He had 2 goaltendings, as they're calling it on the Twitter. Instead of goaltendings, they're goaltendings because obviously he's so long and has the ability to shot block, but his timing is poor. And so he blocks it a little too late when it's on the way down. So I want to hear what your thoughts are on Bol Bol before I give mine.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I didn't expect anything. I kind of forgot he was on the team when he came in. I'm like, oh, fuck, Bol Bol. Let's go. Like, I was excited for that. It's that, what is that image of him just being so excited about everything or whatever. It's like when he came in, I'm like, I'm excited now to watch garbage minutes with him in there. But yeah, he was a little lost. I think the thing he lacks, obviously, is the confidence in his game, whatever he wants to do on the court. But he did have a few good offensive plays. He had the put back, and then he came down transition, and he hit that wide open shot, little jumper. Yes. That looked good. I think defensively, I kind of like the fact that he is trying to attempt the blocks. And, I know they're late. It's very close. But if he's that aggressive and stuff, I like to see that more. And he's playing under the rim more. So he basically is what I kind of thought he would be out there. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on him? Is it bad? Is this good? Not good, right?
It's not good. Okay. What I saw was not good. It fortifies a lot of what my preseason thoughts on Bol Bol were, and that's that he's a player in the middle. He's not physical enough to play down low, so he can't bang bodies down there. And there was one play where he was trying to box out and he just fell down because he's so skinny. As Creepy Crawly says in the chat, he says, saw him try to box out and he fell through the cracks. It's literally what he looked like. And he's too slow especially on the defensive end to guard the perimeter. And he was literally the worst perimeter defender in the league last year. So you see that he did have one chance where it's like they threw the ball wide open 3. He decided to drive and do a runner, and that was a bad shot. So his basketball IQ, his ability to recognize what the defense is giving him. Like when the defense is giving you something, take it. And you're right. His lack of confidence in himself and his basketball ability is something that's ultimately just, it's not good basketball. And it's funny to see how many people get like, they're so excited for Bol Bol to come in, and they're talking themselves into him, the fact that he could be a good player on this team. And I just don't see it. Like, I've watched a lot of basketball in my life, and you can sit there and you can tell me the statistics and the advanced stats, right? You know, whenever you try to talk, it's like the DA argument, right? Like whenever you try to talk to somebody about what you see from DA, they start throwing out every advanced stat or specific metric to validate their point. And you can do that. And you're welcome to do that. But my point is, like, I'm going to talk about what I see, and what I saw from Bol Bol today. It's the same thing as KBD, right? Like, he's got some time, he's got some opportunity, obviously, within this team to grow and to gain confidence. But, you know, both him and KBD, I think, outside of Saben Lee, who we'll talk about here next, were kind of the biggest losers today from this overall performance. Obviously, the first team unit was fantastic. The way that they meshed was great. What we saw from Grayson Allen was out of this world. I did like what I saw from Chimezie Metu at times. Mm-hmm. Eric Gordon, I mean, we didn't even talk about him, but he looks, you know, he fit right in, even though he didn't hit one of his 4 3-point attempts. But if you're looking at, you know, like who wins, who loses this game, which we could probably turn into a segment, I'm guessing, you know, like winners, losers, tailgate boozers. I don't know. But Bol Bol's definitely on that list. And again, I'm coming in with this bias that I don't think he's going to be good. And then when I see it, it fortifies my bias.
Yeah, and I don't care as much, but I think that someone said in the chat too, Maya B says, y'all, he got KD, Book, and Beal watching him. My ass would be nervous as also.
That's like DA was though, right?
Yeah, that's true. And going back to when you were like, I don't see it, right? You watch a lot of basketball. We should be used to that, Suns fans. Like, Josh Jackson didn't have it. You know, yeah. All right, trade is that. You know what I mean? DA just doesn't have it for this team. You got to trade him. You got to get rid of him. You know what I mean? So once you see it, you just know, like, all right, it's not there. Stop kind of believing in it. You see it in the first preseason game, a game where you should show out, because on the other end, Marvin Bagley gets 23 points, whatever, in the second half. He didn't play the first half. Yep. So that's a sign of like, okay, maybe this guy still has it. But Bol Bol out there did not give us any life, except for the first 2 plays he had. So I think he just needs to be more confident in his game. But like you said, he's kind of too slow. He's too long. He's just kind of in between everything. He's like almost there. You know what I mean? Just like with the blocks, like he's almost making the play. Him and Saben Lee had him for an alley-oop, but Lee went up for the layup instead. So he understands the game, like that little pick and roll he did with Saben Lee there to go up for the alley-oop. That was see, because I'm like, he understands what to do, but it's just like, how much time does he have, like, for these guys to believe in him or for him to believe in himself? So limited time, man. He's a garbage guy, I feel like, right?
Well, he came in with like the 3rd-team unit, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, he's kind of on that border between 2nd and 3rd-team unit, and he only played 9 minutes. And it's interesting. I wonder why he didn't play more. Well, probably because, I mean, he was just, again, a huge defensive liability. And that's a challenge you have with him. If I was to ask you, without you looking, Matthew, that any of the statistics, if I was to ask you who played the most minutes tonight, who would you think it was?
Was it Saben Lee?
It was not.
Who?
Yuta the Shooter!
That is quite possibly my favorite drop.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Love it.
I got wild when you sent that to me. I got wild. I got up the couch like DA dunking the ball back in the day. I'm like, oh, let's go. That's my favorite.
I just need him in like Suns gear for that. Yuta Watanabe tonight played 30 total minutes, and you got quite the array of who he is as a player. He was 4 of 9 overall from the field, 2 of 6 from beyond the arc. He had 4 rebounds. He had an assist. He had a couple steals. He had 10 total points. I think that obviously Yuta's not playing 30 minutes a night. And if you look at the front end of his production, right, if you take a look at, you know, through the first, I don't know, like 3 quarters, Yuta Watanabe was 3 of 4 from the field with 8 points in 20 minutes played. That's kind of where he'll be living. He obviously played the 4th quarter plus overtime, and that's what kind of negated his overall statistical effectiveness, I feel. But from what we saw, though, especially those first 20 minutes, you got to be hyped. This player is as delivered. Another left-handed shooter. I love that two of our shooters are left-handed between like Eric Gordon and Yuta Watanabe. They're both lefties. But he was fantastic tonight, man, especially in those first 20 minutes.
Yeah, he was great. My favorite part of his game is just, of course, his shot, but how slow it is. But it's not like a bad thing, right? It's kind of like in slow motion, the release and everything. It's kind of like, oh, it's like, oh my God, it's happening. Here it is. Like everything just slows down when you're watching it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys that I guess Saban Lee hates trashing him all the time, but his shot's pretty nasty. It takes a while to get off his release. But Utah's just so smooth with it, man. Off the dribble too, he looked pretty good on a few plays, but he knows where to be on the court. First shot in, like cover doesn't matter. Like the guy's coming at him, he's so smooth with that shot, so confident in it, and he fit right in with this team, dude. I'm excited to see some real season basketball with this guy.
I am too. I just think that it's like you said, we talk about fit. Perfect fit for this team. Exactly what this team is going to need. Obviously, is plays bigger than he is too. He's 6'9", so I guess he's playing the appropriate amount of time. But I think that given what his role was with the Japanese men's national team this past summer, playing in the FIBA pre-Olympic qualifiers, he's somebody who just he understands a lot more of the game, but he's going to slot into his role the way that he plays. And I loved what we saw from him tonight. Some inside, some outside, playing some defense, getting out in transition. It was his one bad play. I feel like in transition, he did have Bol Bol next to him. And he could have, hit him up, but he didn't hit him up. But another guy who doesn't have a drop, and we'll come up with one of these days. Saban Lee, your boy Saban Lee, the guy that Matthew loves. Give this man his money, all that fun stuff. Played a total of 25 minutes. Was 2 of 12 from the field, 11 total points because he had 6 of those at the free throw line. Because in Saban Lee fashion, he attacks the cylinder. He had a couple steals, 4 assists, only 1 turnover, but just was very clunky, I guess is a good way to put it out there.
Nasty. Yeah, it started off okay. He had a big 3, and then he looked like he was sharing the ball, but then it was constantly just play after play. And I don't know, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal were talking about something, and then looked like, come on, like you got to do this, and that. That's my favorite thing. It's just like little clips of players talking, like, oh, they must be talking about this. I was thinking they were talking about, hey, Saban, hit the guy that's open, right? He did a few plays early on in the game where he hit a cross court. I think it was Grayson Allen who was wide open for 3. He missed a 3, but it was a nice cross court pass. Mm-hmm. But the way he slowed down the offense and looked like he can kind of maneuver and like kind of see guys, went away quick. Like he was not like him, and Drew Eubanks was open a few times, did not go towards him at all. Like I said earlier, Bol Bol was up there for the alley-oop, but he went for the lay-in. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But it always just seemed like he was just stuck there in the paint or on the top of the free throw line with the ball, with the time running out, or he's the last guy to shoot the ball. He drew some good contact in the free throw line, but even those plays, like I think he got bailed out by the refs. It was a bad night for him, for me, for my look, how I do believe in him to be a good backup point guard. But it's kind of like, all right, well, I'm fine because I saw the way that Grayson Allen looks and Eric Gordon handling the ball. So it doesn't really matter. Goodwin was out, obviously. That's the guy you feel will be more the backup. But I was like, Saban Lee, at first, you look like a good kind of filler guard at times if someone needs a rest. But then he played himself out of that too, where it was just like, this looks disgusting.
Yeah, and it really came into fruition in that fourth quarter where he played the majority of it. I think he played 10 minutes, and he was a negative 13. He was 1 of 6 from the field. As you mentioned, rather than playmaking and setting up his fellow teammates, kind of like when KBD was in there playing, it was more like, hey, I'm going to work on my thing. I'm going to try to find my personal success instead of making those around him better. And when, it's one thing if it's KBD doing that. It's another thing if it's Saban Lee doing that, because he's going to be somebody who isn't going to get a lot of opportunity, but when he does, like, yeah, it's nice that he can score, and it's nice that he attacks the cylinder, but you got to set up your teammates because that's what's going to keep them engaged, keep minutes coming your way. And it wasn't very pretty to say the very least, especially in that fourth quarter. Again, that's where if we give up 38 points, we only scored 18. It's almost a flip flop of that first quarter that occurred, and it led to an overtime game, which we don't need. We don't need. I like what Kiko says in the chat. Saban Lee's hungry in a bad way. think it's a good way to look at that, right?
Yeah, it was totally opposite of what I thought he would be this season. And, it is preseason, but you got to show yourself in these games, man. Got to make me look good.
Well, I'll tell you what was going on over in Detroit. I don't know if you know this, but there's a little segment that we do, and it is called the subreddit Stakeout.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit Stakeout.
So I was hanging out in the subreddit for the Detroit Pistons. I was wearing like my Lions colored glasses because obviously the Lions were winning. Devin Booker actually was at the Lions game before it all went down, just catching up with the Detroit boys out there. So then I slid on into that subreddit to see what they were saying about the Phoenix Suns, because that's one of the reasons we like to do this. It's a good opportunity to see not only what kind of things that they think about their own team, but how they're perceiving the Phoenix Suns. And one of the first comments there is something that definitely made me happy. And it said, obligatory fuck Bally Sports. To which somebody commented, I know, Bally Sports sucks so much. Their programming outside of the games is so boring. What was it like enjoying this game not on Bally Sports, Matthew?
I was on Bally Sports.
How?
I was. So I downloaded the app, the ABC Family app. I thought it was our NB or C, whatever it is.
AZ Family,
AZ Family one. Yeah, I downloaded the app, and it wasn't on there. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna stream it. So I'm on Fox. I'm on Bally Sports again, watching it Detroit style. So I guess that's for Isaiah Thomas and Book going. Yeah, everyone, all those guys did it for them. But yeah, I'm not there yet. Next game.
Wow, we'll have to figure that out because seeing it on AZTV, seeing the original UPN music, it's music that we use when we do like the jammies, which will be coming up. Our preseason jammies will be coming up here in a couple weeks. But the graphics, just everything. Not seeing Bally Sports Arizona logos and commercials. When I was hearing that Detroit fans were saying, "Fuck Bally Sports," it made me smile, and now it makes me frown a little bit, considering the fact that you had to watch it that way. So I'm sorry, Matthew. They said 2 minutes in and we're down 10-2. Laugh my ass off. We are so back. Pistons are already in midseason form. It's so annoying how many of the Suns shots are going in when we're actually playing good D in their faces. Suns shooting nearly 90% from the field. That's rough. So obviously that hot start, it's expected for a team that has like the worst record in the league. Monty actually made adjustments, and look what's happening. This is a public service announcement, a PSA, if you will, to Pistons fans. Don't get used to Monty Williams making adjustments.
The adjustments thing. Oh, I'm glad we were done with that. He actually called a timeout. He actually made adjustments. Good luck, Detroit.
Good luck, Detroit. Glad to see that this subreddit hasn't lost the ability to overact over the offseason. It's one preseason game against a good Suns team who's shooting well. Everything will be okay. And then somebody responded, doesn't take more than a game to see how shit Wiseman is. They were bagging on Wiseman the whole time.
He's bad. He's really
not good,
bad, dude. Yeah,
he's not good. You know, the James Wiseman story. You take a look. Obviously, you know, Jalen Duren got the start in this game. He played 15 minutes. And then they went to James Wiseman, and he played 16 minutes and just wasn't very effective. 4 points. You know, he did have 7 rebounds. And then Bagley came in, and Bagley had the 25 points on 10 of 14 shooting in 22 minutes. But for those of you who don't know the James Wiseman story, he's somebody who played at Memphis for Anthony Hardaway. There was a lot of legal stuff going on. I believe violations occurred. So he only played like 8 games in college, and then he was drafted first overall by the Warriors. First overall instead of Lonzo or LaMelo Ball. And he's somebody who's he's never really, his talent has always been there, but he's never had the time to be on the court, because obviously playing with the Warriors, they didn't necessarily need him, so he was around greatness, but he didn't contribute to it. And now being in Detroit, obviously for a while, they did not like him. They did not. He's
coming off the bench too. You know, I would think that this would be a perfect team, kind of like Diego to Portland, you know, kind of under the radar. Just let him feel things out, because honestly, dude, every time he was on the court, he's making a mistake.
Yes, every time. And they definitely let him have it in the subreddit stakeout over there in Detroit. And the last comment I have, wasn't very active in there today. Metu looking like an uglier Ayton.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
Up? Looking like an uglier Ayton?
Yeah, dude. Can you imagine someone's like, you look like an uglier? It's like, oh, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, man. So, Chimezie Metu, I think we'll kind of round out overall Chimezie Metu before we talk about Jamstar and then talk about the next game. Definitely got a lot of playing time tonight, which I'm a big fan of. I think that he's also somebody who has the ability to compete. He will be on this roster. Like, one thing that you have to understand, and if you just haven't been watching the Suns all summer, welcome. Nobody did because they didn't play. But if you haven't been watching what they've been doing, they currently have 17 rostered players with two-way guys, so total of 19 guys. You can have this year up to 3 two-way contract players, which that's currently Saban Lee and Udoka Azubuike, who did get some playing time tonight. He played a total of 7 minutes in that fourth quarter /OT. But you can only have 15 roster players. So the Suns they're too heavy right now. Now, one option they might have is to like waive Ish Wainwright, then bring him back on a two-way. So they might just have to trim one person. So when we talk about somebody who's trimmable, right, it could have been Keldon Johnson, who played 17 minutes tonight, had 6 points, didn't look bad. I wasn't unimpressed with.
In the beginning he looked kind of shaky, but he kind of towards the end looked good.
Yeah, confidence kind of grew as he went. He's definitely athletic. Chimezie Metu is somebody who's not on the bubble with this team either. 19 minutes, 3 of 7 from the field. Had those 2 back-to-back three-point shots, which I thought were going to seal the deal because it's right when Detroit was making that comeback. Then he popped 2 threes, but ultimately that didn't happen. He had 14 points, 3 rebounds, and a block. What did you see from Chimezie Metu in this game, man?
Well, I liked what I saw. At times, there were a few moves he had in the post that looked good, and then sometimes he was a little too slow getting over there. He was bailed out by the ref one time. So you can tell in his post moves, he's kind of looking towards, improving on that and trying to work on his stuff down low, which is good to see. But the transition 3 looked awesome. I didn't expect that at all. I think maybe Saban Lee got 2 assists from that, so we'll just throw him in there. A little good luck till next time. Maybe he can work good with him. Whatever. I'll get over it with Saban.
That's going to be Matthew's thing this year. It's like Saban Lee, the pick and roll with Chimezie Metu, man. It's going to be elite.
No, but I like how he can run the floor. Like, he's a bigger dude that like is more athletic, faster than I thought, but also in the post he's a little slow getting in his moves.
Yes.
But he was one of the better surprises today for sure.
And an uglier DeAndre Ayton. So. No, I agree with you. I liked what I saw from Metu. I think that there were some fundamental challenges that he had when he was navigating the post. I like what I saw. I'll just put it like that.
Yeah.
Where if I was to give a thumbs up or thumbs down today, he definitely gets like a half thumbs up. It's like it's not all the way up, but it's like half there. So
Los Suns, Metu should be our third big, right? Our 3 big, but our third big.
Yeah, I think
he should be that guy. Yeah,
I think so
too.
It goes, Nurkic, Eubanks, Metu.
Mm-hmm.
And you might have the ability to have him slot into the 4 if need be, if you want to get a little bit more physical with second teamers. So we'll see how that goes. Let's jam start.
Jam star of the game.
All right, Jamsters, a reminder, if you're watching along live, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, rate, review, all that fun stuff. Matthew, who are you giving the jam star of the game to in this one?
Grayson Allen, man. Too many more.
It up, guy. I like it. I agree. I give it to Grayson Allen as well. He's the one I was. It's not to say that I wasn't impressed with Devin Booker, who had 12 points in 15 minutes, or Kevin Durant, who had 12 points in 13 minutes, or Bradley Beal, who had 11 points in 14 minutes. Those guys played great. But the guy who I was most pleasantly surprised by was Grayson Allen. And with his addition, between having him and Nurkic, that's what we always said about DeAndre Ayton. It's like, listen, you can take this guy and you can take his contract and split it into 2 pieces that can both be productive. We got 4 pieces out of that, right? We got Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, who we didn't even talk about today, Keldon Johnson, who we briefly talked about today, and Yusuf Nurkic. And 2 of those guys, Grayson Allen played fantastic. Happy birthday to him. Happy birthday to all my fellow Libras out there. I thought it was a great performance by him. So Up next for the Phoenix Suns, preseason graphics right here. Up next on Tuesday at 7 p.m., the Phoenix Suns are playing. Matthew's got Thursday.
I'm what am I, 1 for 3?
You're 1 for 3 on the graphics.
I think I probably spelled Watanabe's name wrong.
Let's
So
double check
go
that.
back on that one too. Is that one okay?
I think so. I think you got that right. Watanabe. Yep, you got that.
Yep, okay.
But up next for the Suns on Tuesday at 7 p.m., we've got the Denver Nuggets, a revenge game in the preseason. It's going to be here at home, here in Phoenix. So anything that you're looking forward to in this game, Matthew?
No, not really, right? I think because there's a few guys tonight that kind of flew under the radar, but also the ones that disappointed. I'm looking for those guys to take another step up. KBD, basically, see what he can do. I think it's a good team to kind of match up, a little bit bigger team. So him and Saben Lee, that's what I'm looking forward to. See if they can bounce back in this next game. Are you on mute?
I agree. Every game is an opportunity for these players right now. And there's definitely going to be a lot of growing pains, not just during the preseason, but through the first 20 games of the season easily. We have 13 new players on this roster. It's not just going to seamlessly fit like it did in the first quarter of this game, where the team's going to go 17 of 20 from the field. That's the exception, not the rule. I think that, KBD, I want to see a little bit more from him. Bol Bol, I've got to see a lot more from him to be impressed.
Yeah.
And to think that he shouldn't be waived. Saben Lee, obviously a two-way player who you're going to hold on to, but with the opportunity you have right now, it's a good chance to get yourself some meaningful minutes, because you're not going to get a lot of them in the season unless it's during, injuries or anything like that. But KBD is kind of the big one. As far as graphics, I'm hoping you step up your graphic game for the next one, because these have been terrible.
Terrible. Take a lap. God awful. Get going. Terrible. Take a lap.
Updated it, huh?
I updated that a little bit.
The actual look, though, it looks cool. It's just everything's wrong on it.
Yeah.
Right?
The
actual information
look fantastic.
Yeah.
The information that they're portraying is correct. So
what's so funny is I was making the scoreboard. I had the Blazers on there instead of the Pistons. I thought we were playing the Blazers. So
we do play them on Thursday.
Yeah,
that's it.
I remember.
We play them on Thursdays. And Jason Robbins says, and maybe a new Grayson Allen drop. His is kind of sad.
That's why we like it, though.
I kind of like it. I kind of like it. It's something about it. It's got that oldies feel to it, and who's leading in that poll that we put out?
What he looks like
on the old Twitter? Yeah, who's lead on that? Any idea?
Yeah. So
say what the poll was and what the options were.
All right. So Grayson Allen, who does he look like? Does he look like your neighbor's dad? Does he look like your family doctor?
Mm-hmm.
Does he look like your kid's algebra teacher?
I think that's one.
Or your pastor. And the winner is.
Well, still going. You can go to our go to Suns Jam on Twitter to vote. But currently winning is
your pastor.
How many? What
your
percent?
Priest. 31%.
So 31% of the people think
it's
that
neck and neck. The family doctor's at 13%, but everything else is 30%.
Okay. All right, Jamsters. Well, this poll's up for about 22 more hours, so make sure you hop on Twitter and check out that, and follow us at Suns Jam on Instagram and TikTok as well. You can follow me at Darth Voida on all the previous platforms, and read my writing at brightsideofthesun.com. Matthew, where can everybody follow you?
At Matthew Lissy.
Good. That's good. I'm just going to play the Nasir Little drop just because I want to.
Nasty Nas, want to square dance with me?
Like that.
Can't complain on that one, right?
It's a good one. Gets me going. All right, Jamsters. Well, we appreciate you hanging out, spending some time with us. I'm going to go watch the rest of the Cardinals game. My assumption is they're probably losing, so I'm going to go enjoy that. With that, Matthew will be eliminated from the eliminator. I've been eliminated from the eliminator. My brother's been eliminated from the eliminator. My wife's been eliminated from the eliminator. Everybody's been eliminated from the eliminator. Eliminator's over. So we will see you on Tuesday, maybe from Footprint Center. I'm still working on that. But if not, we'll see you then. Go Suns, baby. It's good to have basketball.
Go home, Lonely Cowboys.
Yeehaw, partner.